Hi guys, welcome. And who dat? I'm Joe. Hi Miko. That's Miko. And today we are going to look at the defensive tackles that are in the 2024 NFL Draft. We're going to show a big list of them, and we're going to focus on a few of them that the Saints may be interested in. Well, I think the draft this year is really good for defensive tackle. And as far as a position of need, I think it's something that we need to address a couple of times. First of all, we've got the free agent Malcolm Roach. He was one of the best run stoppers last year. Of course, we didn't utilize him properly, and then he got hurt toward the end of the year. I think re-signing Malcolm Roach is something we should do. It's something we'll probably be able to do pretty cheap. And then you'll have your starting four from this past year. And, we weren't great against the pass. We weren't great against the run. There were games when we were adequate against the pass. We had some pressure from the middle sometimes, and sometimes we were okay against the run. But overall, we need changes. So in order to do that with the way the roster is, what do? You hope you get a guy that can rush the passer and stop the run. Yeah, you hope you get a man in the middle that can do it both. Last year, we made a pass rushing defensive tackle a priority, and we drafted Brian Bresee. And if we do that again this year, it'll feel like we're double dipping in a way. I would like to improve against the run. So I'd like to improve on Colin Saunders, and I'd like to improve on Nate Shepard. As far as a pass rusher and a run stopper, Nate Shepard's okay. Colin Saunders didn't show anything against the pass, and we struggled against the run, so I can't give him a lot of credit for that either. So there's a way to improve this team on the defensive line. Get better players. But it's tough because some of them are good at pass rushing, some of them are good at run stopping, and you just hope you can get a guy that can do it all. Do you want to spend a 14th overall pick on an interior defensive lineman this year when we did it last year at the end of the first round with Bresee? All right, let's pull up the big list. These are the interior defensive linemen, and I have a few edge rushers, big edge rushers thrown in here too. This list that I'm showing you is these players will be taken anywhere from the first round to the fourth round, and most of the people on this list will be drafted by the fourth round. So there's a lot more defensive tackles in the draft than what I'm showing you here. But I think that this class is pretty heavy, pretty deep when it comes to middle of the road, middle grade defensive tackles. So I'm not showing you 5th, 6th, 7th round projections today. I'm giving you this big list of all these guys that are very much at play in the middle of the draft. Now, like I say all the time, the Saints don't have a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick. So if we're going to acquire some of these players, we're either going to have to reach, or we're going to have to hope somebody falls, or we're going to have to make moves to acquire middle round picks. I still think that this class is pretty good. And along with wide receiver and cornerback and offensive tackle, I think defensive tackle in this draft is so deep, so abundant that you really should take a chance on somebody. All right, let's start focusing in on these guys. And, I think the Saints can use any or all of them. Starting with number 1, Jerzon Newton out of Illinois, 6'2", 295 pounds. He's very good rushing the passer. And at 295, he's just the right build where he can hold up all game long in the middle. And he showed this past year he's pretty good against the run. I think technically he was a little better against the run the year before, but he's a guy that I think you can plug and play a lot. I don't know if he works in the middle with Brissy all game long. I don't know if he's built for that, but I think you can get him on the field, and it wouldn't have to be just to replace Brissy. So Newton's a guy that's pretty high on the draft boards and should be taken in the first round. The other surefire first round defensive tackle is Byron Murphy out of Texas. 6'1", 308 pounds. So Byron Murphy is considered the best pass rushing defensive tackle, Ian Newton. And, Murphy's at 308 pounds, can hold up in the middle for a little while. He shows at times he can play the run, but I think Newton's better against the run overall. Murphy might be slightly better rushing the passer. And those are your two top defensive tackles. And, they both kind of tend to lean more toward the 3-tech. And I feel like if we grab those guys with the 14th overall pick, we'll be double dipping. So my idea for the Saints is to focus on defensive tackle in the second round if you're going to address it high at all. And I'll start that conversation by mentioning Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Missouri, 6'5", 295 pounds. He's played the middle of the defensive line his whole career, except last year they put him on edge. He had a great season. He's considered an edge rusher, and most teams are going to play him all along the defensive line, and the Saints would love to have this guy. He'll probably get drafted in the first round, which I think is a reach. A lot of potential there. If he somehow slips into the second round, I doubt he makes it to 45, where the Saints are at. But like I said, Darius Robinson is one of those guys that I imagine the Saints reaching for with the 14th overall pick. I'll mention one other edge rusher here, a couple more, before we get back to the DTs. Brandon Dorlus out of Oregon, 6'3", 291 pounds. He's projected to be an edge rusher end and defensive tackle, so I kind of put him in the same space as Darius Robinson, where, I think Dorlus can play on the edge, and then passing situations, you can kick him inside. And another guy like that is Justin Abbe out of Alabama, 6'4", 292. He's got experience all along the defensive line. Considered an edge rusher by most, but he could certainly bounce inside. Robinson and Dorlus and Abbe will be gone anywhere from the first round to the third round. Abbe might last a little longer than that. Let's get back to these true defensive tackles in the middle, starting with Leonard Taylor out of Miami, 6'3", 305 pounds. He is projected to be a 3-tech, so we'd be double dipping again by grabbing him. I haven't seen all the tape on Taylor, and I hear that Miami didn't utilize him properly. So I look at Taylor as a 3-tech. So whether they had him playing at the 5 or on the edge, I don't know. I would hope that Taylor was versatile enough to do it all. But you can find Taylor getting drafted anywhere from the second round to the fourth round in these mocks. So he's a guy that's slipping right now. Another guy that might go in the first round is Tandre Sweat out of Texas. 6'4". I've got him listed here at 362 pounds. He didn't weigh in at the Senior Bowl, meaning he was way heavier than 362. So we're talking 380, pushing 400. He wanted to be big for that bowl game, and then he's probably going to lose a bunch of weight, and then come the scouting combine, he'll be slimmed down back to that slim 362. Yeah, Sweat is a monster, and he's motivated. And I feel like if he's out there on the defensive line, he's freeing up all the other defensive linemen because he's going to demand, double teams. Early in the Senior Bowl practices, he was showing good motor, good push. Got to the point where he wasn't dominating during single man blocks, and so the coaches got on him, and then by the last day of practice, he was blowing these guys up individually again. So I feel like Sweat, while I would love to draft him, getting him at 14, it's crazy. Getting him in the first round might be a touch of a reach. Getting him at 45 overall would be sweet. You just have to worry about the weight. You have to worry about the endurance, the stamina. How long can he be on the field before we have to pull him out? Much like a smaller edge rusher that can only come in on third downs, Sweat's the kind of guy that would have to come out every now and then and be in only on running downs. So you pick your poison. But as far as true nose tackles, Tandre Sweat has them all beat. Next, I'm going to mention Chris Jenkins. This is a guy I really like out of Michigan, 6'3", 305. He's really good against the run, and he's pretty good against the pass. I think he's one of those solid middle-of-the-road guys that can do it all, and Jenkins would be a nice piece to have in here. I kind of look at Jenkins as being able to hold up at the 5 and play against the run well, and still get some good pass rushing from the middle. Jenkins can go anywhere from the first round to the end of the second round. I don't think he goes past the second round. I'm kind of predicting someone's going to grab him at the end of the first round because of his ability to play against the run. Yeah, I wouldn't mind grabbing him with the 24th, with the 45th pick in the second round. Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State. He could go anywhere from the second round to the fourth round. 6'2", 280. So he's a 3-tech, and he shows decent ability against the run. So if he had to play that 3-tech on early downs, we're trying to get Brissy to be that guy where he can be out there all the time. We want Brissy to start ahead of Nathan Shepard for sure. And Michael Hall Jr. would be an ideal backup 3-tech. He may show some things. I've kind of got him pegged as third rounder. Another guy in that third round mix is Horore from Clemson. So I believe he's played with Brissy before, and he's an interesting cat because he can play on both spots in the middle. 6'4", 295. I keep leaning towards him more and more. I really like him. I think grabbing him in the second round would be a reach. And the Saints don't have those third or fourth round picks this year. But man, that's where all of these players are going to be landing. Into the second round, into the third round, into the beginning of the fourth round. That's where the meat is in this draft. And we'll be missing on a guy like Rook if we don't acquire those mid-round picks. Don't know if he's talented enough to reach for him at 45 in the second round. He or anybody else I'm about to mention on this list. But, he's one of my favorites. Another one of my big-time favorites is McKenzie Jackson out of Texas A&M. 6'2", 325. He is a big nose tackle. And yeah, same issue with Sweat. You feel like you might have to pull him off the field on third down, give him a rest every now and then. But when Jackson's on the field, he's going to demand attention and potentially free up everyone else along the line. Jackson, I don't think he can be drafted any higher than the third round. But the sweet spot's there at the end of the third round into the fourth round. Be nice if the Saints could acquire those picks and these guys could be in play. Another guy everyone's familiar with here in Louisiana, Mason Smith out of LSU, 6'6", 315 pounds. When the scouting combine comes, I'm assuming he'll be one of the more athletic guys. And he may shoot up the draft boards even higher than this. I've got him pegged solidly as a third-round pick. I think that's where he needs to go. That's the kind of guy the Saints love to take a chance on early and reach for. Someone with all the potential in the world, doesn't really have the film to back it up just yet. This guy, in Smith's case, is very young and not quite sure exactly where he could play, but you imagine he can play everywhere. And yeah, if the Saints take Mason Smith in the second round, it wouldn't shock me because that's how this team is, although I would feel like it's a reach. Now, Mason Smith's potential is out of this world. When it's all said and done, we might be looking back at this draft and saying he should have been a surefire first-round pick. But often in mocks, I avoid drafting him. People tend to want to get him and get him early. And they probably see a lot of stuff in him. You know, all I saw was a guy that couldn't stay healthy, and I expected so much from him. And, he didn't quite reach that mark. Was kind of hoping he'd be able to go back to school and come out as a higher rated player. So Mason Smith's right there. A guy I would love to get, but I don't want to reach for him, and somebody will in this draft. Another player from LSU, Kai Wingo, 6'1", 295. He's a very active player, and yeah, I wouldn't take him until the fourth round. But somebody might take a chance on him in the third. You got Tyler Davis out of Clemson, I think. 6'2", 300 pounds. Yeah, Davis isn't faring well. He's was rated way higher than this and just steadily keeps falling down the boards. I'm not sure what the issue is other than that tweener size he's got. Not being able to hold up against the run. I think he'll go somewhere in the fourth or fifth round. And the last guy I'm going to mention tonight is Braden Fisk out of Florida State. 6'5", 297 pounds. Fisk is one of those guys that when you watch him, you catch him in the right game, and he's the most dominant player on the field. You see so much get up and go with him. He's so fast. But he's got this issue with finishing, I find. He reminds me of guys like Brian Young that, the Saints used to have. That was a coach of ours, where active, high motor. He's just not the ideal size. Fisk is very tall. And, he's almost 300 pounds. He could probably put on a 10 or 20 more pounds and be more sturdy against the run. But his thing is his get off. He just, a lot of pressures, but I don't think he hits home a lot. That's my impression of him. And although I would be interested in taking him in the fourth round, there's some teams out there that'll probably go for him in the third, especially if they're looking for disruptors in the middle of the defensive line. The Saints could use it all. My biggest fear for the Saints is stopping the run. We never were the kind of team that would get a lot of sacks from the middle of the defensive line. Sacks usually come from your defensive ends, your edge rushers, your linebackers, blitzers. And if you can hold up good in the middle, if you can push the pocket into the quarterback's face, you don't have to get sacks. You just have to affect the passer. So which way is it better to do that? Do we grab a big boy at nose tackle and try to free up everyone else? Do we grab another body that can be active like Brissy and try to disrupt that way? We know how Dennis Allen is on defense. We know what he likes to do. Typically, he's not the type to blitz a lot. He likes to try to get home with his four down linemen. So That is the list of defensive tackles. I'm Joe. Thanks for hanging out. Like I say, I'm not an expert in the draft. I just give you the face value of these players, where they're supposed to go, what I'm thinking about. And I'm your friend that can talk to you about the Saints and have a little bit of knowledge about the draft. This video concludes the defensive side of the ball for the draft. And as soon as the Super Bowl is over and our coaching staff is in concrete, then I'll be knocking out the offensive positions coming out of the draft. So look forward to that. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 so you don't miss those. And I'll talk to you later. Who dat?